What's going on, everybody? Hopefully you guys are all getting in here right now. As you can see, we're about 10 minutes away from the next Cyberpunk 2077 gameplay reveal. And just to check, make sure all the audio levels are right, let me know in the comment section or the chat bar. If you guys have any questions, throw them in there. If you missed it, I uploaded a different Cyberpunk video just a little bit ago. And I'm excited. We haven't seen gameplay for a full year, so I want to see all the improvements and everything CD Projekt Red has been working on. Now, of course, I will be upping the audio levels in a minute when the stream starts. I probably won't be talking too much. I don't live stream enough. I really should live stream more. I think you'd have to let me know there in the chat. Yeah, I think that's one of the things I probably should have done during E3. Am I going to try to... For the Siri model, I don't know about that. Maybe at a different playthrough. I mean, this is a game I'm hoping it's going to have a lot of replayability, so maybe. Yeah, we're just about 8 minutes away. If you guys have any comments or any thoughts, throw them in there right now. And yes, 2K Games does certainly have a casino on their hands, which, will you be my new dad? I don't know about that one, Anthony. Yeah, but thank you for the $5 super chat. Live stream more? Yes, I hope I can do that more. I mean, Red Dead, I was planning on doing that, but didn't happen. Yeah, just if everything, make sure you let me know it all looks good. I want to make sure this stream goes smoothly. If you're around with me in the Red Dead Redemption 2 days, you remember some unfortunate situations, which largely made no audio at one point in when the Red Dead Redemption 2, I think the second gameplay trailer was revealed or something. Yeah, that was a bit of a goofball moment. Yeah, NBA 2K20, I'll get to it in a video soon. I've been lacking on videos as of late, just a lot of stuff going on. But we'll get to that, but it's... If you want my thoughts, they're always on Twitter first. And it just shows that this industry is not improving. And Haverskar, thank you so much. Matteo, thank you as well. And JK, thank you as well. Thank you guys all for the donations and such. It's a surprise machine. It is certainly a surprise machine. Or in 2K Games' eyes, a surprise opportunity. These publishers, they're not improving. That's why I think with Star Wars Battlefront 2, as some of you have heard by now, DICE regrets what happened. You regret what happened? I think you regret getting caught and having to deal with all the chaos that happened afterwards. I think it's a good thing that it happened, but that's not what we're here for. We're here for Cyberpunk 2077, and I'm excited to see the gameplay. I think we're going to see a lot of gunplay. I think they're going to edit specifically away from some of the story beats, specifically with Johnny Silverhand, and it seems like Johnny's going to have a very big role in the main story, so I'm hyped. I'm excited. But yes, thank you anybody who's donating, and I'm just happy to have all you guys here to enjoy this Cyberpunk 2077 gameplay reveal together. We'll discuss what's shown in about 6 more minutes. And obviously remember, after the 15-minute gameplay demo, there are going to be some interviews with CD Projekt Red developers. It sounds like they're going to explain the recent controversy, the character creation. Maybe they'll show you the updated menu. That's something I'm interested in. Maybe it'll calm some of the anger that some people have. Yeah, I'm just taking a look here at the chat. Greedy microtransactions. That's another thing I need to establish with my videos, something I have not done. Let's get rid of the microtransaction word. It doesn't exist. That doesn't reflect any of this. Microtransactions like under 99 cents. These are like 18 full price game macro transactions. That's the proper word, macro transactions. Let's start using that one. If Electronic Arts can invent surprise mechanics, I think macro transactions can become the norm. As you guys can tell, a little mumbly right now. Gotta get used to my streaming voice, which I don't stream very often, so... Yeah, but to the individual who donated $50, thank you. I really can't pronounce your name, but thank you so much. I'm guessing you're a big fan of the channel, so thank you. Yeah, 5 more minutes. I do like how they did this. I thought that maybe this was there's something to this, like maybe something with the ARG that we discussed in the video, but it doesn't seem so. It just seems like on every minute it has a beep, which, you know, it's kind of keeping in theme with Cyberpunk and, you know, the beep tweet that came in 2018. Yeah, I should stream more, Lee. I have a Twitch channel I don't use, but I think if I streamed, it'd probably be here, just because I don't care for Twitch. I don't really watch Twitch very often. Yeah, thank you guys for all the support. I mean, any of this is only possible because of you guys watching my content, and I mean, I just love making videos and hyping up games every once in a while. Red Dead's one of them, and now Cyberpunk, and I don't know what's to come next, but I like getting excited about games, and obviously some people think that I just love talking about negative subjects. No, I mean, my channel grew off of hyping up games, and it turned into something a little bit more with more of the gaming's ugly side that doesn't get discussed enough. But yeah, every once in a while we need to come together and get excited for Cyberpunk 2077. Arguably the biggest game. Drunk on tacos, get woke, go broke, bend the knee and I bend my wallet back to closed. It's a rhyme, I guess. But as I explained in my video today, I don't think that's what's happening. It's just this political climate and how people interpret things, but, I mean, that's your thoughts, that's what they are. I mean, it's your money, you can do what you want with it, but personally myself, I'm playing Cyberpunk 2077 the first day it's out. And I think a lot of people angry probably will be as well. Yeah, Jean Dubois, I think I said that right, thank you. And I think I said that French a little bit. I have French Canadian, but I cannot speak French at all, but thank you for the donation. Dave, I've shown my face a few times on Twitter, but face reveal, I need to do that. Like in something like this is a situation where I'd prefer to have my face shown, but it is what it is. Shelby, I'll be around. I think I got a lot of Cyberpunk content up my sleeves when it comes out, but yes, immediately when it comes out, I'll have my... Like with Red Dead Redemption 2, I just couldn't get away from it non-stop, and I think I've played it 3 times now, but I haven't touched it in a while, waiting on it. And Cyberpunk, I think I'm gonna have a lot of playthroughs of it, especially with all the different paths you can take with this game. I mean, hundreds of hours of content. I'm excited. I really am. There's not a game like this that comes around all the time. Drunk on tacos, I think I know what you mean, and that's your decision. But thank you for the donation. Andrew Hui, I hope I said that right. My thoughts are in my video. I've also given more of my thoughts on Twitter. I think it's overblown, but that's just my personal opinion. Everybody's entitled to their own. They are still deciding on multiplayer, Agent Kozak. That's something that I've been working on a video, but now with this big reveal, I'll probably incorporate some of that news in there. But they're still thinking about it. It's not for sure. But honestly, with all these live service games, I just want a really long, enjoyable single-player experience. We don't get those very often. You could bring up Ubisoft's like Assassin's Creed games, but those are still live services in a way. I like games where I can sit back and enjoy quality experience, and that's what only a few developers really can establish. But here we are, 47 seconds, 45, 44, here we go. And yeah, I'm gonna turn up the volume right now. Here we go, guys. It's exciting times, it really is. I like the countdown. Go.
Welcome. My name is Holly and I'm the UK Head of Communication here at CD Projekt Red, and I will be your host for today as we take a deep dive into Cyberpunk 2077. We're going to be showing you a video with new gameplay and new gameplay mechanics, and afterwards I'll be joined by three of our developers, Miles, Philip and Pavel, as we take a closer look at some of the things you're going to see and hopefully answer some of your questions. On behalf of everybody at CD Projekt Red, we're incredibly excited to share this new look at Cyberpunk 2077 with you.
Is this all live? Anyway, here we go.
Hey V, you alright?
Let's do this.
Oh boy.
Give out with this shit.
Okay. What now?
I saw some of this at E3.
Johnny?
You barré? On a planché.
Man. I'm just so hyped to see this. Can't get the smile off my face. Indeed, Miguel. Indeed.
Where are we?
Our BBS, Data Fortress. Bridge to the deep net. Beyond, there are no borders. Beyond the black wall.
Welcome to the Cyberpunk 2077 2019 Deep Dive video. In last year's gameplay reveal, we showed you our vision for the world of Cyberpunk 2077, its quests, and visual design. This year, we'd like to give you a peek at some of the playstyles you'll be able to adopt as your character progresses through the story.
Here goes nothing.
You're about to see sequences embodying two distinct approaches to playing Cyberpunk. We'll show you a strong solo build, that is, a character who focuses on employing blunt force and taking instant action, and a Netrunner build, a playstyle taking frequent advantage of stealth tactics, hacking, and battlefield control achieved using malicious software. Additionally, you'll learn more pacifica, one of the game's districts, two gangs, the Animals and the Voodoo Boys, and you'll see glimpses of Johnny Silverhand, the digital construct who haunts our main character, V. A word of caution. Given that the video covers a section of the game deep into the main storyline, we have edited the footage to contain as few spoilers as possible. Be aware that the gameplay as presented does reveal characters and locations you'll see while playing the game's main story arc. So watch at your own discretion.
For you asking, I'm just trying to process all of this.
Where are we headed?
As Peralez's campaign promised, and I quote,
This way.
In this video, you'll experience a segment of a quest from the middle of the game. We're currently in Pacifica, one of Night City's 6 unique districts.
No Pacifica, well.
Nah. You guys aren't exactly great at rolling out the welcome mat for outsiders.
It was designed to be a tourist hotspot within the city. As you can see, this didn't pan out. When uncertainty struck the global economy, investors pulled their funding, leaving most establishments unfinished. It's one of those places where expectations and reality collided, resulting in a heap of disappointment. Ongoing gang wars plague this part of the city. Outsiders don't come here if they don't have to. Even by Night City's standards, it's dangerous to those unfamiliar with it. Taking a casual stroll here would not be a good idea. A fast motorbike or armor-plated car would be the safer option. But places like this have their advantages. If you're in need of rare goods or illegal cyberware, Pacifica's bustling local markets are a good place to start your search. The Grand Imperial Mall is a whole other story. It was one of the last developments in Pacifica to lose its funding. Until recently it stood vacant, but now a gang called the Animals has moved in for reasons unknown.
Something's not going right for the big guy up top.
And that's what we need to learn in order to earn the trust of the Voodoo Boys, the Animals' rivals.
What the hell?
Could fucking tell me what you plan to do first.
You take job. You do what I say. So you jack in. Now.
Of the many gangs in Cyberpunk 2077, the Voodoo Boys are the most skilled at using the net.
You have now seen the Rezo Agwe, our subnet.
Why? What for?
You are my vessel now. Through Agwe, I see what you see, hear what you hear.
This mysterious gang of highly skilled netrunners has close ties to the local Haitian community.
You are V? We have been waiting.
Haitians settled in Pacifica in the 2060s after natural disasters struck their island and forced them to emigrate en masse. The Voodoo Boys gang formed around this same time, though at a smaller scale. Now the gang effectively rules Pacifica. The Voodoo Boys don't usually work with outsiders. Lucky for us, it seems they're prepared to make an exception this time.
Mr. Hand sent me. He said you got merc work needs doing.
Still, to earn their trust, we need to prove our worth. Placide, one of the Voodoo Boys' higher-ups, has offered us a mission. We need to infiltrate the Grand Imperial Mall, currently occupied by the Voodoo Boys' deadly enemy, a gang called the Animals.
2035-07. 3 seconds before, poof, the camionette. We try to learn where the camionette come from.
The Animals are not your normal gang. Their presence in Pacifica is suspicious. They value might above all else and wear melee combat implants to raise their prowess in combat. Their beverage of choice is juice, a potent strength and speed-enhancing concoction. As sought-after bouncers, they're usually dispersed throughout town. As skilled street-level business types, they've cornered the market in illegal substances and underground live-or-die prize fights. When they converge in one spot, it's for something big. It's then they appoint the fastest and strongest among them as their ad hoc leader. In this case, it's a woman named Sasquatch.
Said you wanted my vet.
That's insane.
No. As far as I remember, you said no bone brain buffaloes on steroids. Afraid that's the cost of doing biz.
This is the tech Placide was talking about. It seems non-standard for the Animals. And this is where we come in. Getting to the van won't be easy, but we're more than qualified for the job, which we can complete in one of many ways.
Here we go.
The character creation in Cyberpunk 2077 is the kind you'd expect from a full-fledged RPG. You start by choosing your past, important because this unlocks special options at important story junctures. You also fully customize your character using a deep customization system that spans not only your look and style, but also your abilities.
So you choose a male or female
Cyberpunk
body like Saints
2077
Row
does
2.
not feature fixed classes. Instead, it has a fluid class system that allows players to mix and match a wide range of abilities to suit their playstyles. You can create a strong solo character, a skilled netrunner, or any other hybrid class that you can imagine. Let's see how a solo play style in Cyberpunk 2077 might work. Solos prefer a direct approach. They use guns and might to get things done. So let's wreak some havoc. With our enhanced strength, we can strip this turret of its weapons and give the Animals a taste of their own medicine.
That's
This
pretty cool.
is how a player investing in solo abilities might live out their Terminator power fantasy. Enhanced strength lets us force open doors or grab enemies to use as human shields.
I wish they'd aim down sights.
We also gain access to powerful melee combat cyberware. So even someone as fast and strong as Sasquatch, the leader of this group of animals, is not impossible to beat for a solo. But Sasquatch has a different game plan. She's out to jack in and hack us. Let's see how this plays out.
Ready for some fun? Proceed. What's going on?
Trying to scramble loose. Deal with him.
It's our choice if we want to finish her off or spare her. Your Cyberpunk, your rules. If you'd rather sneak around, hide, and strike from the shadows, no problem. Just develop your netrunning skills to get around obstacles or hack into enemy tech to have it do the dirty work for you.
I mean, so far so good.
Netrunning abilities mean hacking skills that let us use our cyber deck to breach access points. For this, we fill the buffer of our cyber deck with a string of instructions represented by these letters and numbers. Matching the instructions for basic access grants us control of devices connected to this network. The more instructions we match, the more control we gain over elements in the network. We can hack our way through in numerous ways. A quick hack may grant us control of the security camera. Another one should let us tweak the difficulty of the training bot to create a distraction. With our nanowire, we can even hack this guy's implants from a distance.
That's pretty cool. I mean,
in this world, almost everything is connected to a local network. And that means it can be hacked.
Ours is a wolf.
Which brings us back to cyberspace. You don't get to do anything in the net unnoticed. There's always someone watching. It could be corpos, or even worse, it could be Netwatch. And that is exactly the case here.
Who is they?
Netwatch. They're always out to fuck us.
Netwatch and the Voodoo Boys are like fire and ice. The first of these wants to maintain the old order and protect people from AI anarchy originating from beyond the Black Wall. The Voodoo Boys want to establish contact with the free AIs. They believe this will enable their boundless expansion on the net and grant them the upper hand over Netwatch. Netwatch sees this as the end of the world. Both are right.
Whoa, hey, easy.
How you deal with the Netwatch agent is entirely up to you. Do we side with the gang? Choosing to be on Netwatch's bad side is never wise. But can we really trust the Voodoo Boys?
You set me up!
As you can see, we have many possible options. But in each case, we take a risk.
Think I'll just stick to my plan.
I do love all the choices. I mean, I didn't know this was going to be more like a gameplay trailer, though.
That didn't work out well. In the world of Cyberpunk, few things go as planned. And that was just a glimpse of how complex the branching storyline in Cyberpunk 2077 can get. Every decision you make will have consequences. Your choices will shape how the world reacts to you and affect your relationships with those around you. One of those relationships is special. Ever heard of Johnny Silverhand? A rebel rocker boy who will be your companion throughout your adventure in Night City?
Come on, really think they give a rat's dick how you look?
Like everyone in Cyberpunk
I love
2077, he has his own agenda.
Oh,
You'll
boy.
decide
Johnny
if he'll be your
Silverhand's
ally
gonna be special.
or your enemy. And that chip in your head, the one thanks to which Johnny lives inside your mind. Well, that's a story for another time.
So I guess that's it. It's kind of like a gameplay trailer, but now we go to the developer interviews, I think. Now it's quiet. But yeah, a lot of people
Welcome back. Now, following the
thought.
deep dive, there is an awful lot to talk about. So I found 3 of the very best. Oh, you're so happy. But I think just in case people aren't super familiar with Cyberpunk 2077, why don't you introduce yourself one by one so everybody knows who they're listening to?
Hey, I'm Miles. I'm one of the level designers at CD Projekt Red.
Hello, I'm Pavel, and I'm a lead of the Quest team, and it's a great pleasure to be talking to you.
So I'm Philip, and I'm one of their Quest designers, so I work really closely with Pavel over here.
Oh, thank you guys for being my participants in this video. Let's get started, because the last demo we saw took place in Watson. This time we're in Pacifica. They're very different, and that's super important for Night City, that it feels different. So what do you need to consider as a level designer when you're building a place like this?
All right, we are diving right into it.
Let's go. People want to know answers.
Okay, I'm going. So, from a level design point of view, for us it's really important to create these districts, the 6 ones that we have in Night City, to be as different as possible without making it unbelievable, right? And we sort of orient ourselves around sort of how we approached, let's say, Skellige and Novigrad No Man's Land in The Witcher 3. So we're sort of aiming for a very noticeable difference. And this has multiple purposes, right? First off, we want to enhance the variety in the game, right? It would be kind of boring just to have a lot of the same throughout the entire city. We have one cityscape, so we need to create this kind of variety, and that's actually a really fun creative process as well. And secondly, we need it as a navigational tool. That means that when you as a player move around the city,
I'm trying not to talk over this.
You should know where you are simply by looking around. And thankfully, there's a lot of lore that we can sort of dissect and make our own that helps us around. But we also add our own sort of twists to the whole thing, right? So in terms of Pacifica, we know that it's pretty fucked up place, if I can say so. And what I mean with that is that it's pretty noticeable that it's almost post-apocalyptic, right? The district has a rich history that caused it to basically fall into disarray after it was initially meant to become the city's crown jewel of tourism. But clearly, as you can see from the footage, that actually didn't quite work out that way. And now you'll actually see things like burning cars on the streets, right? And it's very deserted. So much unlike Watson that we showed last year, where the streets are bustling with people, here there's way less. Because it's simply a very dangerous place that you don't want to really go if you don't have to. And again, that's one of these things that once you enter the district from the rest of Night City, you'll actually notice that, right? And of course, all the destruction going on and all of the, suffering and pain.
Our favorite
and
things.
Violence, as it were.
So what kind of things are exclusive to Pacifica? Because you don't want people to just come for the quest and then leave and that's it. You want people to keep coming back to this district. So what can people find there?
This is what I meant when I said it's a very fun process to think of these kind of things, because the sort of characteristics that we give the district directly sort of birth the things that you can find there, right? And amongst the destruction, you'll still find people living there. Right, Pacifica is inhabited by a large Haitian community, and each district sort of has a kind of dominant gang who has taken over there. In the case of Pacifica, that would be the Voodoo Boys. And unlike the Maelstromers that we saw last year, the Voodoo Boys are actually deeply ingrained within the community that lives there. And they actually... They're not your typical sort of street gang in the sense that they don't really bring a lot of gunpowder to fight themselves, but they actually specialize in cyberspace. They're obsessed with the mysteries of cyberspace. They've sort of almost made it their own religion, if you will. And they have the reputation of being the best netrunners that you can find in Night City. And it's a very cool gang that V, of course, our main protagonist, will interact with in several ways. How? You will have to find out. And I mean, that's just one of many, many different ways you'll really experience Pacifica. As I said, all of these things together, the culture, the visuals, the architecture, and the history, really, will be very distinct to the district. At the same time, we're of course trying really hard to not make it feel disconnected, right? There's always a link. It should always be believable. That's one of the sort of core pillars that we build everything on. But this will make it for a very unique experience when you delve an adventure in this district compared to others.
And when looking at the stories that we'll be telling in this exact district, we always make sure that it always fits to the environment, to what we want to build. So, you know, the street stories that you will find, their side quests, and the main quest that is actually placed there, it always tells the story of the community, of the people, of the characters that are living there. And the Haitian community, right, they arrived actually in Night City because of the environmental changes that were happening in the world. Haiti is actually completely flooded, and they have left it. They arrived to Night City to build the district that Miles just talked about, and they were left out at the moment when the corporations withdrawn all the funding from the Pacifica. They were left there, and they built their own community there, and they gave the seed. They become the seed for all the stories that we're telling there. So as a player, when you're like investing, meeting all those characters and talking to them, you actually find out and learn more about them, you know, through the quests.
Perfect, but let's talk about the mall we just saw in the deep dive video, because that's not linear.
No.
So how do you design a non-linear level? You've got the building, you're thinking, right, well, the person who's playing on their game, they might have a more techie style of playthrough, but this person might want to go in all guns blazing. How do you design levels for all these different play styles? Anything's possible.
Yes, yeah, we do give the player a lot of different tools to use as he goes through a level, and that makes designing these things quite complex, I will say. But, you know, just to sort of understand our mentality, I can actually, I'll attempt, and maybe you'll help me out with this one, to go back in our development, well, sometime. And to really sort of, we came up with this example to sort of establish this kind of mentality that we wanted to have when we approached our level designs and the way we do our encounters, right? And the example was rather simple. The goal was for a player to go from one room to another, but the main way to go from that one room to another would be sort of like a door. And be it through like a scanner or a device, it doesn't really matter for the example actually. Going through this door would ultimately result in the player losing his weapons, but the task was to actually kill a person on the other side of that door, right? Now, we use this sort of example to sit down and think, okay, how will we do this in all these kind of different play styles, right? So perhaps, you know, one way would be to, you know, convince a guard that would be stationed next to the door, just let you through, right? Through like sort of like a social kind of path, or you could take the guy out, take, I don't know, like a pass that would enable you to go through the door without actually letting go of your gun. Maybe if you are invested as a melee character, it actually doesn't really matter to you. You just walk through the door and then punch the guy on the other side into like a pile of blood. Or maybe as a kind of hacker type of character, you try to find a way to breach the network, to disable the device, right, the scanner that would prevent your weapons from usage, allowing you to move through and then use your guns on whatever your target is. Maybe as a kind of fast solo kind of character, you'd be able to jump out of the window onto a windowsill, double jump to the, you know, like a balcony, and then enter through the window there. And the list goes on and on with examples that we try to come up for this kind of door. And it's sort of, again, it's just to showcase how we sort of think about these levels, right? As you know, putting in a problem that the player has to solve, and we give him a lot of different tools and possibilities to solve this issue or bypass it in their own way. And that is how we're hoping to really create an experience for the player that they feel inherently is their own, right? They came up with a solution given the systems that we gave them, and they really get to feel like the badass cyberpunk V that we want them to feel like.
It's actually also a lot of fun to work on this from a story perspective, because, you know, as an example on the Wild Hunt, we were already working with very non-linear stories, but now we also have this non-linear gameplay approach. And for us, it was always really important to have these choices and consequences. And we did them in the story. You know, anything should matter somehow. But now we can also say, okay, players have all of these different choices to solve a situation. So of course, there should also sometimes be some consequences. And not just on the gameplay side, how you solve it, but of course, the story should react to it. Do I just run into this room and kill a few guys? Or do I, choose a super different approach? Sometimes this can now open up a completely new way to go through a quest. So, I think it added to this whole layer of nonlinearity. It added quite a few, let's say, more things we have to do. But the thing is, it is a challenge for us, but it's actually a really fun challenge. It's actually really cool to come up with all these ideas. And the thing is also, our quests are iterated upon a lot. So as an example, quest designers, of course, we play them ourselves. Pavel as our lead plays them again. Directors play them. And also, most importantly, QA plays our quests a lot, and our QA team has really, really good ideas. So, they always think, okay, what do I think right now? What would I want to do in this situation? And then we often communicate, and this is how some of the best ideas are actually created, just through going through these missions over and over again, and always finding some new ways to approach them and some new ways to, find interesting consequences, what to happen afterwards.
Yeah, and that I think sort of ties up with a whole philosophy of a game, which is the freedom. And we have a freedom on the story layer, and maybe I don't want to talk about it too much, not to spoil it, but but it ties up with the gameplay very well, with like the way how the levels are constructed, and with branching gameplay, as Philip just explained, because player has freedom playing the game. You build your character the way you want, and you play the way you want, and you want the player to feel this choice, that he's doing depending of how skills he's assigning, what weapons he or she is picking, and all that, and it all comes together as like fulfilling this ultimate like cyberpunk fantasy.
So in the demo, we obviously saw the bike. There was a little mention of the heavy armor car, but can you tell us a little bit more about the kinds of vehicles that will be in Cyberpunk 2077?
I can tell you a little bit about it. So there's of course many different kinds of vehicles, because we want to create a real open city, a city that makes sense in the year 2077. So there will be all kinds of vehicles, and of course there's also society is very different. So, we also have different art styles that correspond with the different parts of society. So we have the art style called entropy. So as an example, you might see vehicles that are just very useful. They're made to just bring a person from A to B, or, they're made to do a job. And of course, but, the player can choose to have them as well, especially if, the player might not have that much money yet. But there's also, super luxury high-end vehicles on the other side of the coin. So of course, you as a player are only limited by what you can afford.
That's like real life.
Yeah, life is like
That's
Cyberpunk.
what we strive for.
But yeah, we try to thrive for variety. So, we also looked like, what are the kinds of vehicles players would want to have in a Cyberpunk game? So, we don't just have cars, we of course also have bikes, like our very own Yaiba Kusanagi here, one of my favorites. It's a very, very cool bike. And there's some, let's say, surprise vehicles that are still to be seen in Cyberpunk that I don't want to spoil here, but I would say something very special that's also dear to my heart.
Now I'm really intrigued.
But of course also, let's say, the super highest echelon of people in Night City, they also have access to AVs, so flying cars, which is something that you as a player, you're not part of that world, but through specific story moments, you might get to, ride in them sometimes. So, we want to give you a few different experiences. But yeah, you can also, of course, you have your garage where your apartment is, so you can also have your own vehicle that you store, that you can call to yourself. So, you can't call your vehicle Roach if you want to. It's all up to you, but it will be your very own.
I wonder how many of these cars are going to be called Roach now that you've mentioned it. So Night City is massive, and that's like a point we're really trying to make. It's a huge, huge city. And you kind of want people to explore it by foot, right? You could just walk like from point A to point B if that's what you want, or drive.
You could, but probably you would get pretty tired because it's a pretty big place, so you will have to walk a lot. So the thing is, we do not have loading screens while exploring the city. It's a completely seamless place. You can go, wherever you want. And of course, Night City is a very dense place, so there's lots to see on your way. But the thing is also, as with all things, we want to give players a choice. So of course, there's the option to fast travel. But the thing is, actually, the way we're designing the city, we actually kind of feel like, even when we're playing it ourselves, that fast travel is often just When I play the game, I don't want to fast travel. I want to explore the city because we actually try to give you so many interesting things, so many places that tell a story that look interesting, where you have something to do, where you can interact with things that just something new for you at every corner. So I personally don't fast travel a lot. I just drive my bike and I put on some nice music and I have a good time. But of course, it's possible. And the thing is also, we actually have proper city planners working here that actually are planning out Night City and how the traffic would work in that city and how it would actually make the most sense, how a city like that would actually grow organically, and how it would flow, how the traffic would flow through there. So it's actually really interesting to also just have that part of game development now as part of Cyberpunk 2077, because this will be very important for how people actually get to explore it themselves.
To make the city feel alive.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so in The Witcher, everybody who's played The Witcher knows those question marks on the map, those points of interest. You dreamt about them when you were at work, you just thought about them. You can't walk past them. So what will we be sort of looking at for Cyberpunk? What are those things that are going to be all-consuming us, so we are probably not paying attention to the main story? We're going to be like, I've got to go do that first, and I can't go and do this until I've done that one over there. What will we be finding?
So in Night City, you actually really want to tie it into the world. So as an example, most districts have a so-called fixer. Like you might know from our gameplay demo from a year ago, there's Dexter Deshawn. And people like this, they can give you jobs that also fit the specific district you're in. So when you enter a district and you're kind of known as a mercenary who's doing certain things for money, fixers might contact you and they have some jobs for you. And then these jobs, as an example, they can be street stories. And they show up on your map, and you get an icon, so okay, this is this kind of street story. And we always want to put some interesting story to them, because after Wild Hunt, we actually founded a completely new team, the Open World team, which is actually creating some amazing content to actually fill this world with things that are meaningful. So we actually want to make this that you can do many also smaller things around the city, but they're actually all cool and unique in their own way. And one cool thing is also, of course, they appear on your map. But the map in the game is actually properly immersive. It's that really, really cool looking point cloud version of Night City. And you can see the tasks from your fixer there. But the cool thing is actually, because you're a character in Cyberpunk, you're V, and you actually have this information. So it's not just the player seeing them, it's actually your character seeing them as well, because it's all part of the world. So we want to give you this full immersion.
Yeah, it's actually really, really cool for us that with the street stories and all the other content, we're essentially sort of giving him like almost our Witcher 3 side quest treatment, in the sense that even simple tasks can be fun and exciting if we pack them up in a cool story and root them within the world, right? We can use these street stories to expand further on how life in Night City and the world of Cyberpunk in general works. And sometimes this might even be a better staging ground than the main story itself, right? Mm-hmm. Where just like, hey, let's see how everyday life works in this kind of aspect, from this perspective, in this scenario. And actually that's, again, like for us, that's a lot of fun. And it's a very exciting process. And I hope that when players play it at the end, that they will actually find that it sort of enriches their experience, because they always kind of have this impression like, hey, wow, no matter where I go, things are actually worked out, right? It's never just a simple sort of task of, hey, do things, but there's always a reason, there's always an understanding of why you're doing things. And even in those few scenarios where it might seem a bit more, oblivious, you'll usually find that, there's more to it that meets the eye.
Yeah, and one interesting thing about those street stories is also that, our main story is, of course, your own personal journey through Night City, but the street stories are actually, because, you play a mercenary who's trying to carve their way through the city. This is actually your job. So this is actually the role you now inhabit in this city. So actually you're part of that system through these street stories and through working with fixers. So it's actually this whole different way of playing, the game and feeling immersed in the city.
Can't wait to lose my life to them. So in the deep dive, we can see that the character has 3 sort of origins that we can pick.
Here we are getting the character creation system.
How do they actually affect the gameplay?
Oh, okay.
You're like, yes, let's go.
Yeah, okay. I'll go into my 50-minute answer. Okay, so we actually call them life paths. Those are the origin stories that player can pick, and it's actually 3 of them. So you can be a street kid, you can be a nomad, or you can be a corpo. Now, each of them actually defines the beginning of the story for the player. So you start in a completely different way than other life path, and you are slowly introduced into that story. You know a different people. You're in a completely different place in life, you're in a different place in Night City, and your story slowly, you get involved into that whole thing with Chip and Johnny Silverhand, and eventually, you will land there. But you actually start off being a completely different person. Now, what is important with that is we actually take that through the whole game, and you as a player, you can actually associate yourself with like nomads, you can associate yourself with corporate people, or you can be a part of the streets, and it's really up to you, what path you want to pick through the main story, and we did our best in the quest team to like support all those like 3, I would say, main ways to go through the story. And of course, player can like mix and match anytime, any way he really wants, or she really wants, but it's something that we take from the very beginning till the very end. And what's important there is when you're in the scenes with the characters, so when you're discussing things, you can actually use those things. So if you're a corpo and you know how the corporations work, what are their normal methods, what's the deal with them, you actually can use this knowledge and sometimes get something more. You can actually unlock side branches in the dialogues, and you can unlock side branches in the whole quest sometimes. And this is a bit exciting, I would say. It's something like the way how we to make sure that the player can role play their character, to become that person. And in the demo that we have shown in the recording, you can see this moment when you choose that character that you are becoming later. And the characters that you are meeting in the main story, they are also representing those different groups. So in the first demo a year ago, we have shown Meredith Stout, a person, she is a high-class corporate woman from Militech. She has a lot of power, also a lot of responsibility, and you are on her way. And you can see, how that interaction looks like. So when you're from corporation, maybe there's something you can do a bit more with her, and that goes also for others, for nomads and for street kids.
One of the nice things is actually also that, you're not bound to stick, let's say, with the corporates or with the streets. So as an example, I can give an example. I started as a street kid the game, and I know I have my knowledge, but then I play through the story and I notice like, I kind of like these corporate characters. I like that life. So, I can just, betray the streets and snuggle up with the corporates. But, this is kind of the role-playing freedom we want to give. But, as always, this can also have consequences for you.
So anyone who's played the original tabletop version of Cyberpunk is used to the idea of assigning attribute points to create a character. Now, in the deep dive video we just saw, we got a little glimpse of that screen. You could see the points and the different things. So help me understand how that works and how you gain those points.
So as a player, you build your character at the beginning, assigning those attribute points, and they define like the core characteristics of your character. So how much body strength you have, or how much reflexes you have, or how cool you are. That's one of the interesting stats that we have, right? But then, as you have those attributes, you also have skills. The skills define a bit more interesting proficiencies for you as a player, what you can do. And for instance, one of those skills is assassination or the cold blood. And maybe I'll stick to the cold blood to explain a bit more. So this is a skill that allows the player to survive in a really tough situation. So at the moment, you get a lot of damage, then the cold blood skill kicks in, thanks to your cool stat. It kicks in and gives you a boost in damage, and then as a player you can, survive and so on. But then, using that skill, so you sort of like use by learning, like using that skill, you can actually get better, pump up levels there, and you can get different perks. Now, what's interesting there, you can actually give completely different perks to the skill that you have. And here I think I could use the example of the athletics attribute. So the athletics is the way for us to move dead bodies. So as a player, you can basically pick up the dead body that you have just basically killed, and pick it up and like stuff it into the fridge or in a trash bin. Now, as a player, you normally slow down when you're moving around with the bodies. But if you have added special perks to your athletic skill, you can now run with the dead body. So because you are more athletic, you can do that. And those are like 3 levels of complexity in our character, in building the character we have. You have the attributes, you have the skills, and then you assign perks to it. And those 3 come together to allow you to create your own amazing character that you want to play it.
A lot of people think this is maybe how cool you look and it's all about the jacket you're wearing, but the cool stat is not style-based, is it?
Well, you know, this is Cyberpunk, so being cool is of course very important. But the actual cool stat really means how cool you are under pressure, how much you have control over your body. So, you know, are there people shooting at me and I'm holding my gun like that? Probably not very cool. So this is, you know, this is the kind of thing that cool actually controls. But of course, you know, if you want to play a character that's actually cool, you have your choices, right? You can wear your nice leather jacket. And of course, you know, like in real life, also depends on how you talk to people. And that's of course also the choice of you as a player.
He just might freak out under gunfire.
Yeah.
Like, cool on the surface, but not so much when push comes to shove.
Happens sometimes.
So in the deep dive, we saw a quick clip of the inventory screen. It looks like a proper old school RPG screen, you know, with the little blocks of the system. And I know the community wants to hear more about what they can expect. So tell us more, Miles.
Oh, I will. Now, of course, like how I always say is, you know, in Cyberpunk, the inventory screen is, of course, where we manage our items, right? But most importantly, in Cyberpunk, it's where we also manage our style. And just as Philip just touched on, you know, like it's really important for us to be able, for you to be able to realize your character, and that, of course, comes in the character creation, but also the way you dress your character, right? We're pretty much aware that there's sort of this, in most RPGs, there's this common sort of disconnect between the stats on an item and the looks. While we can go into details here, let's just say we're aware of this sort of, you know, conflict, I guess, of interest sometimes. So we're looking into how you would be able to make your character still look cool despite having the best stats of an item, right? Just goes to show that that is really important to us. And of course, you know, the whole role-playing aspect goes even further, because we'll have some customization options, not only for the way you look like, but also your guns, right? In the inventory, you will of course decide what kind of weaponry it is that your character uses to kill people with, or sneak into different, you know, bases, locations, because of course it's also where we mention cyberware, and all of these little things brought together. Again, they've sort of allow you to fulfill your sort of what do you call it? Character fantasy. That's the word I was looking for.
In the inventory, yes, we're changing our clothes, we want to look super cool, but what about cyberware? Can we do anything with cyberware from the inventory screen?
Oh, yes. So imagine inventory screen, right? So if you see the player there, you have a slot. So normally in, like, let's say fantasy game, you would equip a armor, right? Or you would equip, I don't know, a leg piece or something. Like right now here, you can actually replace that with a cyberware, right? So you can get your legs replaced to your cyber legs, right? And those can give you different skills, like let's say double jump. But then as a player, you can upgrade actually those and let's say enhance them in a way that they give you something special to it. So for instance, you can actually make them jump in a way they do not emit that much sound, and they become like a really stealth tool. So because of that, you can traverse in a quiet way through the locations. So this is how you actually upgrade your character. You just go over your body and replace whatever you need. And in the lore, there are Reaper dogs who help you out with that when you have to install those core pieces of cyberware, like for instance the Raven control system that allows you to control the flathead. But there are also other pieces that you can do on your own. And on top of that, as a player, you can also find pieces, small pieces called shards. And those, if you slot into your slot, you can actually, they give you a power of a given cyberware so you can try it out. So as a player, you can experiment a bit, and see how it would be if I would have installed, some special piece of cyberware in my body. And that allows the player to, to see stuff, to figure it out, to build their character the way they want.
Okay, so we know we can equip some of our cybernetic enhancements in the inventory, but where do we get them? How do we get more enhancements?
All right, there's actually multiple ways of going about that, right? The most obvious one is going to a so-called Ripperdoc and getting new cyberware built in you, or enhancing the cyberware that you have. Some of it you will actually get through as you adventure through Night City. Things like the Kuroshi Eye implant that we have, right? It's almost mandated on top of you because it's sort of like a core gameplay mechanic to be able to scan things and get additional information on certain circumstances. And of course, then we also have something we call the street cred system, right? So as you progress throughout the game, you will also unlock more street cred through your actions, and that will enable you to unlock more content in the game. That means, more vendors will open up to you, more services will open up, people will have heard of you and are more willing to work with you. So there's actually multiple ways this affects your experience, and one of them being, like the cyberware that you have access to.
Cool. So Netrunner was featured pretty heavily in the deep dive, but can you give us a little bit more insight into some of the combat skills or abilities that come with the idea of building a Netrunner class?
Yeah, so I think using netrunning skills gives you lots of, let's say, opportunities to be very creative in how you play the game. So I can just give a few examples. So we have access points, and access points are, in the world of Cyberpunk, they can control all the different devices in the area, which of course as a netrunner is pretty useful because you can hack that access point, and if you successfully do that, you can now use quick hacks. You can actually from a distance take over different devices, like as an example a camera. You can do many different things with it. Look through the camera and have a completely different view, or just, turn it off if it's in your way. And of course, you can take over a turret and make it fight for you, or you can do many different things. We also try to come up with nice custom things. So, depending on where you are, let's say if you're in a gym where there's some nice boxing robot, of course, maybe you can do some fun things with that. So I think as a netrunner, it's always lots of fun to use different things. And as an example, if I would use lots of netrunning skills, it's also really useful to use lots of cool skills that make me really good at stealth, so I'm really under control. So netrunner can be really good at also using distractions, like if there's a vending machine, just make it spit out some drinks, and then of course some people might look after that. But the thing is, a netrunner isn't just a stealth character. There's also cool aggressive netrunning abilities, because we always want to give you the choice of how to play. So we have your nanowire cyberware, which is really good at hacking enemies from a distance and then actually taking over their cyberware. So most people in this world have cyberware in their body, so just like access points, very good times for netrunners. So you can then control that cyberware and also do some nice things, like as an example, hack someone's cyberware in their hand and make them do some things they might not want to have happen to them. But the thing is also the nanowire, of course, it's a wire, it's nano, it's very, sharp, so you can also use it as a weapon or as a whip, and, the netrunner can be very effective at using his skills in combat as well. So it's all just, your choice as a player.
What about, let's say, because this all sounds amazing, but let's say you want to do slightly non-lethal, because in the deep dive we saw with Sasquatch at the end, there was an option.
Yep.
Do you want to put her out of misery, or do you want to let her live? So how do people play like a non-lethal playthrough? Can you build a class to help you do that?
So that's basically a choice we made. We really said, okay, Cyberpunk, it is a very violent world, but you're role-playing your character. You can choose to play the whole game without killing a single person. And of course, we're always saying this should also have an effect on the story. So certain characters, in a quest might ask you, yeah, please do this thing for me, but, don't make too much trouble. And of course, you don't get a game over if you do a thing that the character doesn't wanna. So, but the story will react to it. And we want to give you that choice. But of course, not only the netrunner is able to do a non-lethal playthrough. Every player, however you want to skill your character, you're able to do it somehow. But of course, it also depends, where you are. Let's say if you're in some rundown ruin that doesn't have lots of netrunning abilities, of course, the netrunner still has ways to do it. But he might not be able to use all of his netrunning skills. But another player who has skilled different ways now has a different experience. But it can happen vice versa. But what we always want to say, you can finish the whole game, you can finish the quests without killing a single person. Sometimes you just have to also, think about it. Because the thing is, Night City isn't a very peaceful place. So you can never play like a full pacifist who was never engaging in any kind of combat. Because, people will attack you sometimes. But you can choose to, not kill them, because like in real life, sometimes if there's attacks, you don't immediately kill everyone. You can solve situations in different ways.
Yeah, all right. One thing I'd actually like to add to that is that we're trying really hard to not actually punish players for the playstyle they choose to do, right? Whether it is that you're playing a lethal or non-lethal, or like a more aggressive versus a more subtle kind of approach. While NPCs might sort of have certain wishes for you how to approach a situation, they will never outright punish you for not, sort of doing their wishes. Because we really want to give players as much freedom as possible, and punishing the players for certain actions like that, which is basically them choosing to play their character, would directly contradict this kind of idea that we're trying to set up in terms of role-playing fantasy.
There's nothing worse than like accidentally slipping on the trigger. You're like, I didn't mean to kill him, and then everything
exactly.
changes.
And as an example, you can also see a Sasquatch that we show in our demo. It's a really intense fight, but actually, if you choose, you can subvert that fight. You can maybe just, sneak around her and find a different solution. And then maybe, of course, you can get a consequence out of that, because now Sasquatch is still alive. So, the story is already different. So I think this opens up many different opportunities, not just for the gameplay, but also for us as storytellers.
But let's tell us a little bit more about the solo build, because that was another build from in the deep dive. What kind of skills does that give someone then, as opposed to Netrunner?
I think that the most typical solo fantasies that our players have is to be a strong solo and to be fast solo. So be
it's two different.
I would say so. But you can also build any type of hybrid you want. But the strong one is the person who can shove people into the trash bins and so on, carry bodies, run with them. But you can also pick up the heavy guns.
Did something happen?
Mounted to the turret and use it against the opponents. We have shown that in the recording for a moment. When V is just killing everything on her way with this very heavy gun, you of course cannot take it to your inventory and run around with everything with it everywhere. But this is the only I would say build that allows you to do that, right? So this is very, very special. However, if as a fast solo, you have access to lots of different traversing skills. So as a means of exploration, you can, for instance, do the double jump and access places that you would not have otherwise, right? You can also, slide around with your katana, or slide around using nanowire that we have also shown. So you can be built in a completely different ways, built based on the stats that you have picked as a person.
Sounds really, really cool. I'm just going to run in, I think, and just punch everything until I get what I want, which is also like real life.
Yeah,
this game is so close to real life. It's quite incredible, actually.
It literally happens every day.
So we know we've talked about Netrunner and Solo, and we've shown both of them in our deep dive, but that's not just it, right? There are other builds. So, maybe tell us about Techie.
Yeah, so generally how we approach this kind of stuff is we have sort of thought, we're thinking of three sort of main archetypes of how you can play the game. That would be the Netrunner playstyle, right? The solo playstyle, which, as Pavel said, sort of branches into sort of more agile, fast solo, and the more brutish, strong solo character. And then there's the last one, which is the Techie. Again, it's just important for us to say that these are just archetypes that help us think about how players might approach any kind of situation. But of course, you'll be able to create any kind of hybrid and just pick the skills that you like in between. And the Techie, is sort of a more technically affiliated playstyle, right? Whereas the Netrunner is the one that sort of manipulates devices that are active by hacking networks and taking over control. The Techie is actually the one that sort of dabbles with the hardware itself and cables and whatever drives machinery, all that stuff. And to add on top of that, we're actually layering our little buddy called Flathead, and he is what we call a spider bot, a kind of very sophisticated piece of military hardware that the player will be able to use when he chooses to invest into the Techie playstyle. And Flathead is an interesting one because he's a pretty, basically this autonomous robot that listens to your commands, and you can basically send out Flathead to do certain things for you, right? You might be able to send him out to manipulate certain devices, right? There might be, I don't know, let's come up with an example here. There is some sort of broken lamp or something, or like a broken gadget. You can see it with your scanner, right? And you might actually send Flathead to do a little bit of tweakage there to make that object fall down onto an enemy, right? Or other examples would be to use Flathead to, directly engage with enemies. There's a certain customization options that might be tied to a buddy robot, and I hope actually players will get oddly attached to their little robot buddy, right? And again, this is like a whole sort of layer, another layer of how you might play the game. And as I said earlier, with us thinking of the archetypes, it is one of the many possible ways of how to play the game, and we're trying to add as many tools as we can for all three of these archetypes to really sort of be able to manipulate the game world and feel like, yeah, this world, if I look around, I see opportunities that suit me. You're maybe fantasizing to play as a sort of Terminator kind of character, right? We have our scanner, you look around, see opportunities, and you seize them. And how you seize them and what opportunities arise for it really just depends on what kind of character you're playing and what skills you have invested in.
Okay, so we all stand Flathead. We know that Flathead is everything. But also let's talk about actual weapons. Let's talk about guns. What can we expect? 'Cause we saw a few. We saw the Militech turret being ripped out, used as a machine gun. We saw the nanowires, but tell us a little bit more.
So our guns are divided into three main categories, right? There are smart guns that we have shown in a previous demo like a year ago. So basically they shoot homing bullets that are following target. There are also tech weapons, and the tech weapons are those that have additional capabilities to them that they for instance can pierce covers. And there are also power weapons, and power weapons are mainly focused on being a street grid weapons. So they basically have additional skills and capabilities connected to the fact they're reworked in some way. So for instance, those are bursting shotguns and things like that. And we have put plenty of work to making sure that the weapons feel well and they have their weight. And there's lots of really cool examples that I can give here. For instance, there is a handgun that as you use it, it actually speeds up the bullets slowly, and longer you use it, faster the bullets become, so they can do more things and they can do more damage. There is, for instance, a class of the weapons for the handguns that has been created by a Russian company to fight cyborgs. And that weapon is able to heat up the bullet to the point that the bullet becomes almost like a melted plastic, and is done, for instance, so it can shoot off cyborgs' arms and so on. So there's always a small piece of story, wrapped up around the weapon, what that weapon does. And what's interesting here, I think, is that you can also use a second firing mode for a weapon. And not all weapons have them, but some of them, if you use them in a specific way, let's say a tech rifle that we have shown in a previous demo, when you use it in a specific way, it changes its way, it collapses together, and then it allows you to pierce up the covers and shoot through the walls and shoot the enemies like that. Or you can, bounce bullets off the walls, right, using the ricochet. We try to always put enough depth into the gun. For instance, literally today, I have seen awesome shotgun that has 8 barrels, and they shoots them in the same time. And it has actually I think that players will love our gunplay, especially the way how the guns look and how they feel when you shoot them.
I'm so excited. That's yeah. Shotguns, they're my favorite. 8 barrels, even better.
I think also something really cool to add to this is that, as you already touched on it, all of these companies, these gun manufacturers and all that stuff, they actually, a lot of it comes from the actual lore, right? But we're also making sure that, there's a history to everything. That includes the brands and ads that we have in the game. We actually have a whole team dedicated to just that kind of stuff. And again, it sort of is in line with our philosophy to make sure that everything is rooted in the world, has its reason why it is there, has its history, history. I think that's really sort of like the secret ingredient to make like a really believable world, that when the player actually goes in, that they have this impression like, yeah, this place exists, right? This feels alive. And I think that will make just the fact of simply walking through Night City like a really, really cool experience.
Also, actually, one of the cool things we also have is we have lots of different melee weapons. And, it starts by, very spontaneous ones. So let's say you find a broken bottle and you just use it, or you find a knife on the ground and you can use it to fight melee, or you can, as an example, throw it. But you can also specialize in melee weapons, because as we said earlier, maybe you want to play as a cyber ninja, and of course, as a cyber ninja, there's many different katanas that you can actually also specialize in getting really good at them. And there's even cyberware for melee, like the gorilla fists that can also be used to, be really strong and open doors. But, if you're really strong, you can also hit people with it. But a cool thing is also using your melee weapons together with special cyberware. So as an example, my favorite cyberware that I always like to use is the Sandevistan. And essentially it slows down time for you because your reflexes get boosted. So now you have superhuman reflexes. And the way we show it is, of course, time slowing down for you as a player. So imagine you have your katana and you just go into a slide and then you can aim and like just go through, and it actually feels really cool. Like you feel like you have super control, but actually you can also see, as an example in the demo, how it feels like to be in the receiving end of cyberware like that, because the animals have reflex boosting cyberware as well. So actually sometimes when they're coming towards you in melee, they zip around really fast.
So that's what that is?
Exactly, and this is how it actually feels for enemies. When you have your, slow-mo, this is how they see you moving around. So it can be pretty scary to also find someone who uses the same cyberware you use.
What about you two then? What are your favorite cyberwares that you've seen so far, that you can talk about so far before you get me in trouble?
Oh, I think that at least for me, I think those are gonna be mantis blades. I think that's the best one. We have shown how it looks for the player, how it feels when you use them. The way you can chop off heads and so on. It's something of a it's very poetic, I would say. Yeah, in other cyberware, I think that I would like it's more story related. It's Mr. Stud. I will let our players to figure it out what it does for those who know the lore a bit.
For me, Philip already took it away by taking the strong arms earlier and the Sandevistan, so a bit of a greedy dude over there. No, but so I guess technically the cyber deck is a piece of cyberware, right? That's the one that actually allows you to breach into networks, take over control, and use all that hacking magic on all kinds of enemies, right? Like in the gameplay, we show how you can not only manipulate this training robot, but you can also manipulate devices that you might not think are necessarily hackable, like the bench press that we showed there, and it goes even further than that, right? If you combine that with, like, for example, the nanowires, but also you can do it from closer up, you can actually breach into like a squad's internal network by hacking directly into the personal links of enemies. And once you're in the squad network, you can actually use what we call daemon software, and to essentially quick hack the cyberware that is attached to people's bodies, right? So imagine a scenario where, you're a Netrunner kind of character, you're sneaking through, but then things get hot, right? So now you find yourself in a combat situation. Luckily, of course, you come prepared. You already foresaw that things might go wrong because you're a skilled Netrunner after all. So you already breached into the squad's internal network. Now, these enemies start swarming you, and what do? Of course, you start using your scanner. Then you look at these guys and you realize, hey, I breached the security, so I can now upload my virus software into these guys to make them do things that they don't necessarily want. You might hack their cybernetic hand to force them to pull the pin on a grenade they have at their grenade belt, setting them to a fiery and explosive but spectacularly looking death. Alternatively, we also have one that you can actually use to basically make enemies finish themselves off, right? They'll shut themselves down. And it's actually really cool because you sort of see them struggling with their hand as well. So it's like it really sells the fantasy of what you're doing, right? And you're basically becoming this cybernetic god as soon as you take over a network. And it really is something that, you know, feels so different from the other play styles that we have. And I really like the sort of level of variety that we offer players when it comes to that. And I think that ultimately, and pardon me for being a bit buzzworthy about this, but like this will really make each playthrough very unique to players, right? Not only the way you play it, the way you interact with the world, the way you talk to people, all that kind of stuff. Like if you look at all the little choices that accumulate through the game, no playthrough will basically be like another. And inherently they will also feel very differently depending on what kind of you know, character you want to play. And I guess that would be the less obvious one, because as a netrunner you'll always be sort of having your cyber deck, because otherwise you could not be a netrunner. And then I think I've mentioned before in another video of sorts that I really like our nanowires, which go hand in hand sort of with this net running playstyle. I guess you can see where my personal preferences lie. Don't worry, it does not affect my designs. I try to be balanced. But you know, like whereas the regular netrunner can sort of breach into a squad network by sort of taking an enemy out and having an extra option to breach into their squad's network, the nanowires actually allow you to do this from a distance or from a safe spot, right? And they can also be used to slice people into bite-sized pieces. So again, as Philip said much earlier, if I remember correctly, we've been doing this for a bit. There's actually, you know, no playstyle that is sort of meant to be played in a certain way, right? We don't go, okay, the hacker kind of character, he's the stealthy guy, he needs to operate from the shadows, whereas the solo type, he's the one that, you know, just goes out and shoots everyone. No, you can actually still, within these playstyles, choose how you play the kind of character, lethal, non-lethal, stealthy, and non-stealthy, and we just give you the tools in all playstyles to do whatever you want with it, right? So if you want to be a combat netrunner, if you will, that likes to use gunfire and you know, making people blow themselves up, sure, go do that. But you can also do it in a stealthy approach. It really lies in the player's hands.
So let's say I've got my 8-barrel shotgun. It's my favorite gun. I love it. What can I do to it? Can I customize it? Is it moddable? Are there any options for, you know, really making something special and one of a kind?
So I think we can say that there are like two major ways what you can do, how you can customize your guns. One way is customizing the visuals, and those are different skins and like paint overs, paint jobs that you can have on your gun just to make sure that, you know, when you're a Cupid, that your rifle is pink or purple, you know, if you really want it. But then there's the second way how you can customize it. It's a different sort of attachments that you can have. You can have silencers, you know, you can have like a sniper rifle zoom on the gun. You also can boost up the stats of the given weapon. So in that way, you can basically make it more efficient. So you can make it to look the way you want, and you can make it to shoot the way you want.
I think, Miles, you've mentioned this before, that also changes the animation, right? As it progresses, you can change the way it looks as you...
I'm just saying this right now. I don't know how much longer I'm going to go with this.
So basically, the more you use your guns,
I don't know how long you're going to go
the better you become at shooting them, right? You might start as a complete amateur, like I would be with shooting a gun.
Good to know.
But yeah, I'm not a very good shot. And the better you become with it, you know, that actually affects your way of handling a gun. So, you know, your crosshair might become smaller, indicating that your accuracy increases ever so slightly, and that will also sort of influence the way your animation looks like. Your reload speed will be faster and all that stuff. So you actually really get this sense of progression and your character evolving as you play the game. And yeah, I think that's pretty special sort of experience if you combine it with the way, you know, that you can customize your guns and kind of really have this feeling that, yeah, this is my signature gun, right? And I'm really good with it.
Right, guys, thank you so much. I know there is one thing we haven't talked about from the demo, and that is a little bit more about the gangs. We spoke about the Voodoo Boys a bit, but we haven't even really spoken about the animals. And while I know you guys know everything about Cyberpunk, I thought I'd actually throw out to maybe the godfather himself. So I caught up with Mike Pondsmith at Gamescom to ask him, who are the Voodoo Boys and who are the animals?
Hi, my name is Mike Pondsmith, and I'm the guy who killed your Cyberpunk characters. And today I'm going to talk to you about two very important things.
We gotta wait.
I'm going to talk to you about animals, and I'm going to talk to you about
Mike
Voodoo Boys.
People.
So let's take the Voodoo Boys. When I created them many, many years ago, I was looking at kind of a really interesting idea, which is what we would now call cultural appropriation. What happens when somebody comes in and tries to adopt a culture that they know little or nothing about and does it really badly. But one of the great things about having a few years is that you get a chance to do some redos. And one of the best ones is what we have with the Voodoo Boys now. The Voodoo Boys in 2077 are really Voodoo Boys. They inherited the name, but it was sort of a natural fit. They were coming from Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and they were the real thing. And they managed to take a lot of the elements of their original culture and meld it into the world of 2077 to bring that cyberpunk vibe into a very old and respected culture. So they're a gang, but they're not really. They're more of a cultural phenomenon. They're more a way of cultural exploration. And I think it's really cool because it shows us a side of the cyberpunk future that we normally wouldn't see. On the other hand, they're the animals. Way, way back in my dark, dank past, I used to lift. Don't anymore, but I used to. And I would see guys like the animals in the gym I went to.
I love Mike.
Guys who live to get strong and get really strong and get really strong. The animals are like those guys. They're in it to basically build themselves up and become the tigers of their particular urban jungle. They want to be big, they want to be bad, and they want you to fear them just because they exist. And you know, it's really easy to fear a guy who blots out the sun when he walks by you. But the animals are very simple. They have an ethos: get big, lift, get strong, lift. So unlike the Voodoo Boys, who have a culture, the animals have a thing. And contrasting that is interesting, because in 2077, you get a chance to see that not every gang is the same as every other gang, and what motivates them depends on the people you meet on the street. Check it out. This is Mike Pondsmith saying, I'm still here to kill your Cyberpunk character.
We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into Cyberpunk 2077. Now, don't forget, you can join us on Twitter, Facebook, forums, and even join us on Discord to make sure you stay up to date on all of our news. Cyberpunk 2077 is launching April 16th, 2020, and is available for pre-order now. On behalf of everybody working on Cyberpunk and here at CD Projekt Red, we thank you for watching, your ongoing support, and we can't wait for you to explore Night City.
Alright, there we go. Whew, that was long. Not the gameplay, but the actual talking. And I think that's it. I'm gonna probably just boot up YouTube and see if the trailer's been uploaded, or the demo's been uploaded. There's gotta be a secret message somewhere in here, but yeah, let me I think that's good. Let's see if it's been uploaded. And it has. Give me 1 second, chat. Let me try to get this as good as I can. And does that look okay? Let me know. I want to go through this for a little bit, but let's just get playing it. I'm gonna talk over it, of course. We've gone through this. Yeah, but I was not expecting them to talk so long. I think they were trying to reach the more general audience, but a lot of the stuff they went over, they kind of talked about stuff that we've already known about, but let me get the gameplay going. Jeez. And let me... I'll flip through this a little bit just because they already went over this, and you can flip back earlier if you want to watch it in full. But there were a few cool things. I like that they changed it. Now there's a mini-map. As some of you know, they had that like Skyrim heads-up display for the map. Now you have an actual mini-map. I think that's a good addition. I saw a lot of people saying that it was downgraded. I didn't see that. I think it looks perfectly fine. Yeah, and let's see. Let me... Maybe, and also you got to remember Twitch and YouTube have weird processing, so the footage doesn't look as crisp. And even right now, I'm only playing 1080p just because I don't know how to look 4K on here. But yeah, I don't really see a downgrade at all. That's just my opinion. You can judge the footage. I wish they had showed more, but it was clear that they were trying to get away from the dialogue and the conversations. Like, they did not want to show the choices that we had, and I think that's fine. Now, since this is a video I uploaded earlier, let me go to the character creation. Let me see if I can find it. Or I'll just skip through. We'll find it eventually, but yeah, they skipped through quite a few things. We've already seen the setting. Like, a lot of this stuff in the images, if you have been following my channel or the Cyberpunk Twitter account or social medias, they've kind of showed a lot of these pieces, so it wasn't really... I mean, the gunplay was new, and I mean, looking at Night City, I mean, it looks beautiful, but they didn't show off too much, and I wish we had seen more driving. I think I love seeing V on the bike.
While taking frequent advantage of stealth tactics, hacking, and battlefield control.
Gene, they didn't avoid the gender subject. They got to that, but they didn't talk about it. But yeah, I love how all the things going on in Night City, like, that's one thing I want people to ask. Like, I mean this in the nicest way possible, but those asking questions to CD Projekt Red, maybe ask questions about stuff we haven't heard of. Like, I haven't heard anything about the world activities and things going on. Like, this is some cool shit, but nobody's fucking talking about it. I don't get it. Like, we're so fixated on other certain things, I won't say specifically, but you know what I'm talking about. It's like, how about we talk about actual stuff in the game that we haven't heard of? I know what the story is. We all know most of this stuff. That's just my thoughts.
As you can see, this didn't pan out. When uncertainty struck the global economy, investors pulled their funding, leaving most establishments unfinished. It's one of those places...
Yeah, look at that. I love this. I wish we had seen more just driving on the bike. It looks so fun. But obviously that's just my opinion. And yeah, chat, you've been going pretty crazy. I gotta make sure I have some more mods in here. Turned into a battle zone in the chat. Whew. I wish I had a modding team here, but...
Where expectations and reality collided, resulting in a heap of
Yeah, the thing I like about Cyberpunk is the different districts. They look so... Look, Pacifica, it's been abandoned, and it just looks... It looks fascinating. The world building is something that I admire about CD Projekt Red's games. Even The Witcher 3, but there's 6 districts, and I think there's going to be like a moon mission or base they're not talking about, but I think there's going to be a lot of cool exploration that we'll have. And there's also some underground stuff. I'm working on a video. Hopefully I'll compose a lot of new information that comes from here. But I mean, overall... We've known about most of the stuff here.
Taking a casual stroll here would not be a good idea. A fast motorbike or armor-plated car would be the safer option.
Look at that car,
gorgeous. But places like this have their advantages. If you're in need of rare goods or illegal cyberware, Pacifica's bustling
Yeah, let me skip ahead. I don't want to go through this one again. We've already
and
gone through
forced
it
them
earlier.
to emigrate en masse. The Voodoo Boys gang, a gang.
I mean, is there any things that you guys noted specifically? I would love to know. I'm trying to look through the comments or the chat and go through this. I mean, the gameplay, like the actual gunplay, it doesn't look basic, but it looks all... I mean, I'm not looking for something Call of Duty Modern Warfare-like. It doesn't need to look realistic. It looks fun. That's all I want. And I think this is where they get into the character creation system.
The kind you'd expect from a full-fledged RPG. You start by choosing your past, important because this unlocks special options at important story junctures. You also fully...
Alright, so here it is. For people saying it's not like Saints Row 2, it's exactly like Saints Row 2. I mean, sure, it doesn't say the words male and female, but you got a guy, you got a female character. And then you go from there. You make the character look however you want it to be, and that's it. I fail to see the problem with any of this, and I know that this gets into a lot of opinions, but that's just my 2 cents on it. Make your character, all kinds of replayability, and believe me, there's a lot of people out there that want to do some experimenting with their characters, and guess what? CD Projekt Red turned on a few switches, and there you have access to it now.
Customize your character using a deep customization system that spans not only your look and style.
But yeah, it looks like there's a lot of stuff that we'll be able to customize our character. I'm gonna have fun doing it. But this is another thing we haven't seen yet, and I'm excited by it. It looks like the skill system, the attributes and stuff, perks. It's gonna be fun customizing my character. I still don't know what I'll be personally doing myself, but it's going to be fun exploring this system and seeing how it all comes together. I mean, this is going to be, if you do everything in the game, I imagine it's going to be a couple 100 hours, so. Yeah, I'm looking through some of the chat while we go through here. And yeah, here we have the different builds, so that's pretty cool.
Solo play style in Cyberpunk 2077 might work. Solos prefer a direct approach. They use guns and might to get things done. So let's wreak some havoc.
Yeah, Christian, thank you for the donation. I don't see the downgrade either.
Of its weapon to give the animals a taste of their own medicine. This is how a player investing in solo abilities might live out their Terminator power fantasy.
Now, the one thing I will say that I wish they had done is more aim down the sights. I would have liked to see some of that, but they didn't do that. They kind of just, shot up, hit fire. It is what it is. And yes, if you have been following this stream, they talked for a very long time, and as I said before, it was a lot of just talk about basic things we've all known about, but maybe that's just because they're trying to reach the general audience who they believe haven't watched the IGN and so on interviews and such. But at the same time, you have to think that I think a lot of people have a very short attention span, and they probably aren't going to spend that much time watching an interview that probably could have used Mike Pondsmith's involvement. I mean, if he had sat there and talked about this, guy who's been invested in this universe for 30, 40 years, I think a lot of people would have liked to hear Mike talk about it and give his thoughts and break stuff down, but that's just my perspective on it. But I did love the passion that these CD Projekt Red developers have for this. And there's some other stuff I'll be talking about later, but they are passionate about this game, and I'm excited for it.
Enhanced strength lets us force open doors. Or grab enemies to use as human shields.
I do like that. That's pretty cool. A nice, neat feature.
We also gain access to powerful melee combat cyberware. So,
Maddie, yes, they did have Mike at the end, but I think for the 45, 50-minute long, they could have had him in there. I think Mike's voice is just so unique, and I think it would have made. I saw a lot of people saying it was getting boring, and I think Mike could have gave it some energy. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for.
So even someone as fast and strong as Sasquatch, the leader of this group of animals, is not impossible to beat for a solo. But Sasquatch has a different game plan. She's out to jack in and hack us. Let's see how this plays out.
For those saying that there's a downgrade, I actually have the past trailer up. You can take a look and judge it yourself, although the definitions are going to look different, because I directly downloaded the old one. But I'll show some footage. I mean...
Nah. You guys aren't exactly great at rolling out the welcome mat for outsiders.
It was designed to be a tourist hotspot within the city. As you can see...
I don't see the downgrade. I'm sorry, that's just me. It looks exactly the same. I'll put the volume down a little bit. It doesn't look much different in my opinion. Obviously they added a mini-map.
We've greatly enhanced our crowd and community system. to create the most believable city in any.
So that's the last trailer or the gameplay demo.
This didn't pan out. When uncertainty struck the global economy, investors
I
pulled
don't
their
see
funding,
the difference. Maybe somebody can
leaving
break
most
it down,
establishments unfinished. It's one of those places where expectations and reality collided, resulting in a heap of disappointment. Ongoing gang wars plague this part of the city.
The thing is, I want to emphasize this again. The world building is just amazing. One of the best things CDPR has done with this game. Just, there's going to be 6 different districts. Pacifica obviously looks abandoned. It looks nasty. There's homeless people everywhere. And that's what it is. And I think that we're going to see the variety. And it's going to be fun exploring all these different locations.
Outsiders don't come here if they don't have to.
It looks so fun.
Even by Night City's standards, it's dangerous to those unfamiliar with it. Taking a casual stroll here would not be a good idea. A fast motorbike or armor-plated car would be the safer option.
Yeah, Edgar, I think that's a fair thing to say. The skin does look like plastic. Like, if you check the Keanu Reeves moment when he pops in here, I think it's right at the end. I also love the dialogue that he had him record. Johnny Silverhand's going to be a fun character.
Like everyone in Cyberpunk 2077, he has his own agenda. You'll decide if he'll be your ally or your enemy. And that chip in your head, the one...
I went past it, and the chip in your head's the key to the story, it seems, or the immortality chip. Although that may be something separate.
Think they give a rat's dick how you look?
Venture in Night City?
Come on, really think they give a rat's dick how you look?
Like everyone in Cyberpunk 2077, he has his own agenda. You'll decide.
Juice de Groot, thank you for the donation. Johnny Silverhand, it's going to be a lot of fun with the character. I know some people are like, I'm not buying Cyberpunk 2077 just for Keanu Reeves, and I think there's a lot of people that beg to differ with that comment. Conrad, as far as I've heard, you cannot join a gang. Like, you can work with them or for them and stuff, but you can't actually join a gang, I believe. Although, don't take my word 100% for that. I believe on numerous occasions, CDPR has said something along those lines that you can't actually join a faction. Although you'll have lifelines and you can start off like as a nomad or a corpo or a street kid. But the actual gunplay, it looks fine. Bullet sponge bosses, I think that's kind of the road I probably should have expected. But, I mean, everything looks fine. Oh yeah, Games Media, I will mention this part that I found really interesting. Like, they made a big thing about Placid's conversation with V, and V apparently mocking him by saying day, like mocking his accent. That wasn't the case. I can't find the exact moment, I don't remember where, but it's clear he's just like he's just bringing up what he said, and I find it so ridiculous that we point out the smallest little things. Ugh, I mean, all the controversy around this game is so absurd. It's the same way with Red Dead. Red Dead had a lot of it before release, and it was just always absurd.
What you see, hear what you hear.
This mysterious gang of highly skilled netrunners has close ties to the local Haitian community.
You are V? We have been waiting.
Haitians settled in Pacifica in the 2060s after
What does that say? Let me see, let me go back. Got no home, sick kid, and cheating wife. Okay, I can't read that. Need Budo, Robbie, ASAP. You're just gonna something it anyways. Okay, but I like the first part of that. I can't read the rest of it, at least not by zooming in and such. I'm sure somebody else could.
They're prepared to make an exception this time.
Mr. Hansen.
Booze? Okay, it says booze.
Got merc work needs doing.
Booze money, okay.
Still,
right,
to
people.
earn their
you
trust,
better eyes than I do.
We need to prove our worth. Placide, one of the Voodoo Boys' higher-ups, has offered us a mission. We need
Ryan Nicholson, as far as I understand, there's all kinds of customization that you can have. Yes, and Melee is going to be a big part of that. Namersing Uncle says, how much control over a person do you think you could have with upgrades? They haven't shown the Ripper Doc upgrades necessarily, but there's some things with eyes, and it seems like there's going to be a lot of customization and different things we can add. How far they go with it, it's still not 100% clear. And Iron Lotus, yes, the internet can be absurd 99% of the time.
No. As far as I remember, you said no bone brain buffaloes on steroids. Afraid that's the cost of doing biz.
I will say that's another thing. There's so many little things. I'm not too crazy about the voice acting with this. I hope the voice acting isn't like this with all of it. Maybe it's just me, but Sasquatch sounds a little bit off. Maybe it's just because this is like a phone call or something. But I don't know. The voice acting just seemed a little off. But then again, there's probably hundreds of voice actors in this, so maybe that's just me nitpicking a little bit.
This is the tech Placide was talking about. It seems non-standard for the animals. And this is where we come in. Getting to the van won't be easy, but...
Trying to go back through this a little bit and find some of the other moments. Like, this is a big story moment, and they definitely skipped over it because they don't want to show Johnny Silverhand and the Alt Cunningham connection and talk about that. They really want this game, for those who actually play it, for it to be a complete surprise, and I don't blame CDPR for taking that approach. And I know people are like, IGN already told us everything that's in these demos, why didn't they just show it all from start to finish like they did last year? I mean, the difference is, that mission particularly, this was shown, takes place in the early part of the game. This does not. This takes place midway, I think they said. So I can understand why they didn't want to release like a 40, 30, however long it is. It makes complete sense in my opinion, but I can understand why people are a little bothered by this. It's like a gameplay trailer. If you remember Red Dead Redemption 2's last gameplay trailer, it was like 6 minutes long, and they had somebody voice over something. That's what this is, pretty much. And it's also only 14 minutes long, might I add, but that's whatever.
Bridge.
Welcome to the Cyberpunk 2077. This year,
has anybody found any secret messages or anything? That's one thing I'm interested in with this. There has to be. CDPR is always known for that, and they haven't done anything with their ARG. I wonder if that's finally getting booted up again, I guess.
And a Netrunner build, a playstyle taking frequent advantage of stealth tactics, hacking, and battlefield control achieved using...
And that's one thing. I saw somebody bring up the inventory system. Let me see if I can find... Let's see if we can find the inventory. I don't know if they show it specifically in this or it was the other deep dive. But I know at one point they show the actual... Okay, here's the attribute system. Let me see if I can find it. Because I didn't get a good look. I wanted to see more of the inventory. I don't know if they show it here or if it was the actual other one, but...
The playstyles you'll be able to adopt as your character progresses through the story.
Here goes nothing.
You're about to see sequences embodied in the middle of the game. It was designed to be a tourist. Destruct the global economy where expectations... Ongoing gang wars plague this part of the city. Outsiders don't come here.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to find it here, but the inventory system looks interesting. I do like all the different slots and such, and I saw somebody bringing it up. I don't know where it is in here, unless somebody else has another tab open and is able to find it, but they showed it like for a very brief second. They showed off, but that was also when the developers were talking. I don't know if that was specifically part of it. But it looks interesting. I'm curious about all the vendors we can go up to and some of the unique items that we can obtain. That'll be really fun. Body without limits. Ooh, that ought to upset some people in the chat right now. I guess.
Strength and speed enhancing concoction. As sought after bouncers, they're usually dispersed throughout town. As skilled street level business types.
Somebody said it's like 2 seconds after the attribute.
It's for something big. It's then they appoint the fastest and strongest among them as their ad hoc leader. In this case, it's a woman named Sasquatch.
I don't see it.
You wanted my bed.
That's insane.
No. As far as I remember, you said no bone brain buffaloes on steroids.
Standard for the animals, but then qualified for the job, which we can complete in one of many ways. The character creation inside...
Yeah, I'm not looking for the character creation system. Maybe some of you guys missed this, but they showed the inventory and at one shop. It was like Granny's shop or something. Maybe it's not in this video, but Yeah, here's the character creation, but I'm specifically talking about the inventory. And I don't see it here. And the book says something in, I think it's Haitian Creole, I want to believe. It didn't look English, or maybe it's French, I don't know. Yeah, they don't show it in this. Or maybe they do. Oh, that's just, this is the hacking minigame that we've been talking about.
Instructions we match, the more control we gain over elements in the network. We can hack our way through in numerous ways.
Yeah, Cyber Orchestra, I kind of wish they had
control of the
I didn't know it was going to
camera.
be this edited, I guess.
Another one should let us tweak the difficulty of the training bot to create a distraction.
Some of the... Okay, let's see. Oh, here it is. This is what I was talking about. But first, Master Yvonne, I believe I said that right. Hope I pronounced it right. If you kill an enemy who possesses a weapon you like, would you be able to pick it up and keep it? Never played a Cyberpunk game, so curious. I believe you can. I think it's just like The Witcher. I don't believe it's any different. But yeah, this is what I was talking about. Special offers, samurai jacket. So I'm really curious about some of the unique items we can have as... Let's see. This person has a hard shutdown, a daemon optic. I think that's what it is. And then the samurai jacket, which is... All of this is Eddie's. Yeah, but they don't really show too much. I really do want to see some of the unique items we can obtain. They really haven't shown that. Yeah, thank you guys. I see a bunch of you now saying 432. They showed it really briefly. That's why.
Markets are a good place.
Like in the developer interview, they show you walking up to a vendor, and then this opens up. And apparently, vendors like this are scattered throughout Night City. Like, I guess I'm assuming with corporate in the corporate part of Night City, there will be a place where maybe some of the more valuable items can be found, valuable weaponry and outfits. I think a lot of us just want to deck out the look of our character.
To start your search. The Grand Imperial Mall is a whole other story.
One sec, let me go back just a second.
Search.
Okay, here it is. This is our actual gear system. Yeah, I'm curious definitely with some of the unique items we have. Obviously, it just looks like basic shirts and stuff. I wonder if there's like suits and then if we look further down, we have the health, physical resistance, thermal resistance, chemical resistance, and electrical resistance. So yeah, there's supposed to be unique items scattered throughout Night City. That's something that Pavel Sasko, I think I said his name right, the CDPR Cyberpunk 2077 developer, he brought that up in a recent interview. So that'll be fun exploring Night City just like The Witcher 3.
The Grand Imperial Mall is a whole other story. It was one of the last developments in Pacifica to lose its funding. Until recently it stood vacant, but now a gang called the Animals has moved in for reasons unknown.
Something's not going right for the big guy up top.
Yeah, somebody says it's also at 7:53. I don't know if that's something different though. Yeah, this... Oh wait, they do show it again. Huh. Okay, I guess I missed it both times. But yeah, we can see all the how cyberware, then we have the crafting. They haven't shown anything about the crafting. So some people are asking if there's like way to make master weapons or something, or I don't know if that's going to be possible, but there's a crafting system. How far they go with the crafting, I'm assuming it's going to be a lot like just The Witcher 3, so take that as how it is for now. And yes, there probably is going to be more gameplay and such stuff revealed soon. I imagine CDPR is going to reveal some more trailers specifically on vehicles, crafting, and some of the other features, but it may be a slow rollout. The game still is 8 months away.
7 does not feature fixed classes. Instead, it has a fluid class system that allows players to mix and match a wide range of abilities to suit their playstyles. You can create a strong solo character, a skilled netrunner, or any other hybrid class you can imagine. Let's see how a solo...
Christian Gonzalez, thank you for the donation. He says, I can see multiplayer co-op for Cyberpunk Sin City. I mean, I think it probably fits, but we also haven't seen much. Like, in this whole demo, another thing I will note is that it's very enclosed. Like, they didn't show much outside. Like, in the past demo, which is what I loved about it, was that you could get a good idea of what Night City is like. Here, it's very enclosed. There's not much shown except for what CDPR wants to show. Iron Lotus says, do you like CP worlds like in 70s and 80s movies like Blade Runner, I'm thinking you're talking about? And I do. I like how they look. I kind of wish there's flying vehicles. But I think Cyberpunk 2077, if I had to say a game that it reminds me of right now, it reminds me mostly of Deus Ex Mankind Divided, a game that I think wasn't actually that bad. I think it got a bad rap. I think that it certainly needed more content, and there were some issues, but I think Cyberpunk 2077 looks similar in style to that, and that's not a bad thing. I love that game. I feel it's really underrated, but yeah, I mean, I dig this so far. That's if you guys are curious. I love everything that was shown in this demo. I just wish more was shown and it wasn't as edited.
So even someone as fast and strong as Sasquatch, the leader of this group of animals, is not impossible to beat for a solo. But Sasquatch has a...
IFC Gamer says the graphics look like 2008. I don't know how you got 2008 out of any of this. Maybe the only game I can think that could come close to this, maybe what, Crysis or something? There's not many games. This don't look like a 2008 game to me. Yeah, Spider Angelos, I hope I'm saying that right. I think that's the best way to describe it. Mankind Divided felt like it was half finished. Like, it was so good and then it just, like, abruptly stops.
It's our choice if we want to finish her off or spare her. Your Cyberpunk...
And that's something that I do like, this option that we're going to have. I love consequences. That's something that I don't know if it upsets me with, like, Bethesda's Fallout 4, but I feel like there wasn't as much... with it being a role-playing game, you want there to be decisions that matter, and I don't think there was enough, I guess. I don't know. With Cyberpunk, I hope that if we keep Sasquatch alive, it will have a big effect on the story. But then again, how involved this element is in Cyberpunk 2077's main narrative, we don't even know at this point. We've only gotten bits and pieces. And I kind of hope now moving forward we see more images throughout Night City. We've seen Pacifica, we've seen Watson, but we haven't seen really outside of that. And I want to see more of Night City that we haven't seen.
Your rules. If you'd rather sneak around, hide, and strike from the shadows, no problem. Just develop your netrunning skills to get around obstacles or hack into enemy tech to have it do the dirty work for you.
Yeah, let's see some of this. Let me go back real fast. Bench press. So I'm guessing each, like, thing we can hack, it'll tell us, like, certain things we can do with it by hacking it, so that'll be pretty cool. Although I think it's more comparable to something like, I saw a lot of people bringing up, what game is it? Watch Dogs. So it is what it is. I think that some of the hacking elements were obviously going to be similar to that, and I saw a lot of that. This is just like Watch Dogs. This is just like Watch Dogs. I don't look much like Watch Dogs in my opinion, but that's just my perspective.
The dirty work for you.
Brutal. I love it.
Netrunning abilities mean hacking skills that let us use our cyber deck to breach access points. For this, we fill the buffer of our cyber deck with a string of instructions represented by these letters and numbers.
So there's side objectives here. So additional hacks. I'm guessing it unlocks. We got the camera log, officer tracing, program prototype, and encrypted data. I'm guessing some of this will help us with maybe more rewards and how to advance through this quest a little bit easier, I'm guessing. They haven't really talked about how these rewards are going to be distributed, but I'm interested in seeing how this hacking minigame is going to completely work. It looks interesting, at least. Now, let's keep it going.
The instructions for basic access grants us control of devices connected to this network. The more instructions we match, the more control we gain over elements in the network. We can hack our way through in numerous ways.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like the hacking.
Hack may grant us control of the security camera. Another one should let us tweak the difficulty of the training bot to create a distraction.
Ooh, brutal.
With our nanowire, we can even hack this guy's implants from a distance.
Yeah, guys, I'm going to wrap this up in the next 5-6 minutes, but I'm going to keep going a little bit more. If you have any questions or thoughts you want me to, I guess, look at, throw them in the chat right now. But, I mean, my overall opinion from all of this is that CDPR's interview went a little longer than I expected. The actual gameplay, it looks good, but I'm kind of hoping now we see more... maybe more gameplay on specific features like crafting, maybe driving. I like something more than just a few seconds of this. And obviously 2018's gameplay demo, it was great, but just my thoughts with this. I think that there's a lot to be shown. Yeah, and I love, is this like fingerprints or something? Like the hack looks dirty. I like the detail. It just looks like what it should look like, I guess.
In this world, almost everything is connected to a local network.
And then Placid's connected. Can he hack that? Is that what's happening here?
In this world, almost everything...
Or is he just connecting on our screen? Because he's in our head, obviously.
Everything is connected to a local network. And that means it can be hacked.
Ours is a wolf.
Which brings us back to cyberspace. You don't get to do anything in the net unnoticed. There's always someone watching. It could be corpos, or even worse, it could be Netwatch. And that is exactly the case here.
And then there we go. We got a... I didn't actually notice this. This is part of the map of Night City, the overhead, I guess. Although we can only make out this region, which obviously none of the corpos or anybody's going to be looking, and it's like, I guess it won't be necessarily policed, so that'd be pretty fun, just doing whatever you want. But I am curious about if we can explore outside of Pacifica, like these areas. I don't know if that's just water or the no man's land.
Who is they?
Netwatch. They always out to fuck us.
Netwatch and the Voodoo Boys are like fire and ice. The first of these wants to maintain the old order and protect people from AI anarchy originating from beyond the Black Wall. The Voodoo Boys want to establish contact with the free AIs. They believe this will enable their boundless expansion on the net and grant them the upper hand.
Is that like Red Dead? It looks like so much like Red Dead. Maybe that's just me. Cowboys, I don't know. Just a random observation I'm making. Maybe I got Red Dead too much in my mind.
On the net and grant them the upper hand over Netwatch.
That'd be pretty fun.
Netwatch sees this as the end of the world. Both are right.
Whoa, hey.
How you deal with the Netwatch agent is entirely up to you. Do we side with the gang?
I think it's just an old school cowboy film. But I do like the vehicles. Even this looks like
choosing to be on Netwatch.
But there was like one specific one. I don't know where it's shown in here. They've shown images of it. I mean, I can open Iron Lotus. What would you like to see in a Cyberpunk game? I mean, Cyberpunk 2077 is doing a lot of what I want. Let's see. Cyber. I'm trying to find it. Here it is. One sec. You got that? I love that vehicle. I don't know. It kind of reminds me of like a Dodge Charger, I guess. It just looks really fun. I love the fact that... I like the fact that there's muscle cars still in here, and I'm really excited for that. Although, obviously, in Pacifica, there's some, I guess you could call them crappier vehicles or something like that. And then, yeah, obviously, we have that, the bike. Yeah, and there, that's the muscle car. It kind of reminds me of, like, a Dodge Charger, something along those lines. Looks cool. Alright, let me, I think I X'd out of it, but... Whoops, 1 second there. One second there, people. Let me look it up one more time. I'm just going to go back to it real fast.
To be on Netwatch's.
Yeah, there's not much else I want to really go over, but let me quickly... that should be fine for the moment. We're just going to quickly go through this real fast. Yeah, any remaining thoughts? I'm about to wrap this video up. If you have any more thoughts, throw them in there.
His bad side is never wide. Want to finish her off or spare her? You're Cyberpunk. Your place to start your search.
Yeah, any more thoughts, guys? Throw them in there right now. And yeah, all the controversy surrounding this game it's nonsense pretty much.
Search. The Grand Imperial Mall is a whole other story. It was one of the last developments in Pacifica to lose its funding. Until recently it stood vacant, but now a gang called the Animals has moved in.
Jay Whitty will be the main will be the max level, maybe 50, I'm not sure. I really don't know. I think I saw a level 39 somewhere in here. One of the animals. Yeah, Placid's 40, so I have no idea what it's going to be. I don't know if that's been revealed. I don't think it has. For Love of the Page, there will be alternate endings. This is a non-linear story. You're making your own, so obviously whatever decisions you make throughout the game are going to affect the outcome.
Still, to earn their trust, he has...
Yeah, we didn't really talk about Johnny Silverhand. I do think his character model, I don't know if it looks a little off, but I saw some criticizing how the model looks, and I can understand that criticism a little bit. But as we can see with the options, the freezer, get in, don't tell me, I gotta get in. What do you want from Alt? What's the black wall, really? So, Alt Cunningham, obviously that's going to be a big part of the story, and CDPR probably didn't want to show these dialogue options or go through them. Steve Duncan, it's always been like that, unfortunately. It just seems like a lot of people get upset over small things that really aren't that big of a deal.
And that chip in your head, the one thanks to which Johnny lives inside your mind. Well, that's a story for another time.
So I guess this is what they're going to show next. They're going to show actual story gameplay or something along those lines, or more background. Maybe that's next. What's up in the future? I don't know how long we're going to have to wait. But it seems like we got more coming, hopefully, soon. But hey, I'm excited for Cyberpunk 2077. And do we know if Silverhand is the main story? Yes, he's a big part of the main story. I think they said Keanu Reeves has like the second most dialogue recorded. So yes, he's a big deal. He's not just an afterthought thrown in there. Although I will say in this gameplay, he does have some funny dialogue. So it seems like he's going to be a fun character to have, I guess, following us around. Although how long he stays in our head as like a digital ghost, I don't really know. They haven't said. How extensive do you think the styles of gameplay will be? Well, I mean, if you saw the skill system, it looks like there's going to be a lot of different ways we can go about this. And then there's obviously different types of weaponry, and yeah, I mean, it looks like there's going to be a lot of stuff to do here, and you can play whatever way. Stealth route, it looks like you're going to have a lot of options. I think that's the point I'm trying to make. Even with the character creation system, lots of options. And I think that's the mission with Cyberpunk 2077. CDPR just wants to give a lot of options, which that should be something encouraged, not discouraged. Rolgin says, do you think there will be year 2 plus content? I mean, maybe. It really depends what CDPR has planned. I know that they're getting back in the Witcher universe after this, so I don't know what they have planned long term for this. I know that there's word probably about some story DLCs, and I've also heard in one of the recent interviews, I think it was a Polish interview, they mentioned that they were looking into free DLC, just like The Witcher 3. So, I mean, it looks like there's going to be a lot of content after release, and knowing CDPR, it's going to be substantial. and it'll probably be come at a good price. Because I am kind of tired of this live service nonsense where everything's quote-unquote free, and then you get crappy content. It just feels like things haven't been going in the right direction with after post-launch monetization with a lot of games. But Cyberpunk 2077, CD Projekt Red, I mean, they did it right with The Witcher 3, and I think they'll do it again right with with Cyberpunk 2077. I think I need to get some sleep. Whew, my words, they're going nowhere. But yeah, last thoughts, guys, throw them in the chat right now. And I think there's going to be a lot of videos, a lot of all kinds of routes that you can take with this game. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's what I'm so excited about Cyberpunk 2077. Red Dead Redemption 2 is such a big release. There was so many cool things found in the game, and I think this is the next game to offer just that. And it's only 8 months away, thankfully. And the gunplay, I said this earlier, it looks okay. I mean, it doesn't look top-notch like Call of Duty Modern Warfare looks, but it looks enjoyable. And that's all I'm looking for it. Although some have really been trying to make it out to be a lot worse than what it actually is. The Witcher 3 had free DLC, if you didn't know it, right at launch. I'm not talking about the 2 story DLCs. There was some free DLC at launch. I think a lot of people forget that. Yeah, 16 free DLCs. Look it up. Exactly. I remember that because it was such a big thing. People were like, what? A AAA game publisher giving free content, actual free content with no microtransactions, which actually shouldn't be called microtransactions because they're actually macrotransactions. Whew. Branded Price. This was actually like it was a different interview. It was an interview that nobody has seen. I forget what it's... I don't even think it was Polish. I think it was like French or something. There was a lot of noise in the background, but I read a translation and some people were saying he was talking about free DLC. So we'll see what happens. That's just something that was mentioned in an interview. Car customization is something confirmed. They haven't talked about it. I kind of wish they had actually mentioned that, but they didn't. Yeah, CT, that's exactly what I was talking about. Terrence Sprouse, I have no idea if I'll ever review copy. Maybe not, don't know. I don't really get many of those. Like, I got one from Red Dead Redemption 2. I was thankful. I'm kind of surprised I even got that. Any other game, that don't really ever happen. Most of these game publishers, not a fan of me. Karma Enigma, thank you for subscribing. That's what it's all about. I'm just glad that you guys are here listening to my voice talk about all this. And I'm really hoping to do more live streams in the future with not just Cyberpunk content, but just content in general. Burakusa, do you see that counter guy's hand left marks on the counter when he lifted his hands up because of the heat? I didn't see that part, but it sounds interesting, and that sounds like the attention to detail that we expect from CD Projekt Red. So that's pretty cool. I'll have to take a look after this. If you maybe could screenshot it and send it to me on Twitter, but it sounds cool. Madness Methodical, they already said there's not going to be a beta. KBL, same thing. I think they already said they're not planning on releasing a demo or a beta for anybody, so there's that answer. Collector's Edition, I think that most of those are sold out, but I'll see what I can do. I already have one, I think it's just the standard pre-ordered. Well, it is just the standard, because there's only 2 different editions. I'm not made of money, people. I wish I could afford something like that.
The leader of this group of animals is not impossible to beat for a solo.
Javon Jones, there are melee weapons. They just didn't show, like, there's a sledgehammer, and then I think we saw, like, a sword. So I think there's going to be a lot of cool ways that we can go about combat. And Lunatic Gamer, if you're asking if I'm going to do a gameplay breakdown, I'll probably incorporate some of the stuff in a video and discuss it, but there's not much we haven't seen. I mean, most of this is already stuff we've gone over. Too stupid for a name. Says, do I know anything about level gating and bullet sponges? They didn't talk about any of that, but there is some bullet sponges. Actually, in this fight right here with Sasquatch, you can see some of that, but that's just a boss fight, so I don't know how this is going to work with actual scaling, but it does look like some of these enemies could be spongy like the Division, but maybe that should have been expected.
It's our choice if we want to finish her off.
Felix Brand, can you have all skills in the end of the game, or if you have to choose? It's not clear yet. Like, it really depends if there's like a level, like a max level. I would imagine that you can't put them all in there. Like, it's not going to be like Fallout 4, but I could be wrong about that. That's something, again, there's a lot of stuff that CDPR hasn't actually revealed that I kind of hope we find out sooner than later. And Hugo, as far as I saw the specs that they were aiming for, it seems like a lot of PCs should be able to play this. There's one thing about CD Projekt Red, they know how to optimize games for consoles. I mean, hell, The Witcher 3 is running on the Nintendo Switch, something that nobody would have expected.
Or spare her. You're Cyberpunk?
Nene, of course you'd ask about strip clubs. I don't know if there are. I mean, I think... let me take that back. I think they said there's like brothels like The Witcher 3, so it's like The Witcher 3.
Your rules.
Alright, people, I think it is time to finish it off. The status of the ARG, I'll have to look into it. I don't know if there's been an update. Maybe there's a secret message somewhere in here. Maybe somebody's found it. CD Projekt Red's they keep things very hidden. It sometimes takes a little time to find it. Like, there could be a message right here that we don't see. It's as simple as that, or even down here. But yeah, I want to thank all of you for coming out. I'm going to have more Cyberpunk content coming in the next days to come. Hopefully later, maybe tomorrow, I'll have a video breaking down some of the things that I didn't mention here, and just to kind of put everything together, because this has been going on for like, been streaming for about 2 hours. Graft, I do get in my Discord. Voice, not very often, but I do need to be more active on there. But thank you guys for joining me, and I think this stream went pretty well. I think there's some things I need to improve, but I'm hopeful to stream more. But if you haven't already, do consider hitting that like button, subscribing for more, turn notifications on for all the latest news. And again, thank you guys for joining. I'm glad the chat came back to reality. We got a little bit away from the craziness that was going on earlier, but it was a lot of fun. This is what I love about making videos and just streaming in general, and why I do want to stream more. And actually, there's one more super chat. I'll answer this. Did you hear Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo are looking into investigating monetization in future games? And are you going to do a video on it? Well, I haven't heard anything about that yet, but I'll look into it. And investigating, I'll see it. I'll wait. I highly doubt that Electronic Arts money that they are making and all that stuff. We'll see. I don't know about that. But there is some questions, especially about NBA 2K20. But that stuff I'll talk about on Twitter. But thank you guys for joining. It was a lot of fun. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.